Okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. So this is DevICT for the month of June. So just a little bit about us first. DevICT is a program that's ran by Make ICT members. If you're not familiar with Make ICT, check out the website, makeict.org. We are a community for developers. Our mission is to educate, empower, and connect software developers in the Wichita area and potential software developers. We have a code of conduct. We're dedicated to a safe and harassment-free experience for everyone. We don't tolerate harassment in any form online or at our events. If you have any questions or concerns, please seek out an admin organizer like myself or Seth. And on our website, devict.org/conduct, we have the full code. I just want to talk about a couple ways you can get involved. The best way to be involved with DevICT is to get in our chat room and just chat with us. There's about 100 people registered. Usually anywhere from like 30 to 50 are online at any given time. It's by invite kind of service, so we can give you an invite, no problem. Another thing is you can get on our website, you can watch past presentations. We're recording right now this presentation that we're giving, and it'll go up on our website when we're done.
Also streaming it live.
Oh, and we're streaming it live for the people that can't be here physically. Another way to be involved is to donate. Membership in our organization is free, but donations are appreciated because we do have monthly costs, about $100 a month in costs for our meetup group, site hosting, our membership here at the Labor Party. One way is you can, on our website, we can just accept donations or recurring donations. And actually, we also have T-shirts that Seth is modeling for us right now. If you could like stand up and turn around a little bit. From Open Wichita, one of our related groups had whoever whistled. You're out. Yeah, so we have these T-shirts that are available for a $10 donation if you're interested. Just talk to Seth about that. Another way to be involved is to give a talk. It's a great way to learn about a topic of interest. Especially if there's, like, when you commit to talking to a group of 30-some people about something for, 20 minutes or a half hour, or 45, it really kind of forces you to learn about that topic. So if there's something that you are interested in or excited about and you want to really learn more about it, come give a talk. I think that we're here in a couple months, we're talking about maybe doing a lightning talks kind of session where we'll have try to get 15 or 20 people to come up here and just do like a 5-minute talk. And so that would be a great time to do something. And talks at user groups like this are a great way to practice for maybe refining that presentation and practicing it and then pitching it at a regional conference like the Kansas City Developers Conference is going on right now, or in Oklahoma, there's Thunder Plains. There's a lot of regional conferences. We have a website, jobs.devict.org, where you can view or post job openings. Okay, I want to talk about some of our friends. So Make ICT has open hack nights every other Monday. The next one is June 29th. These are at 7 p.m. So then July 13th, July 27th. At the Make ICT Makerspace, which is on Douglas and...
It's 1500 East Douglas.
1500 East Douglas. The Women Who Code Wichita group has June 29th, the Code Together here at the Labor Party. And then July 21st, out in Andover at the Butler campus, they're doing a tour of the Butler IT Institute and a presentation on what they're doing to empower women. Open Wichita is having a hack night on July 9th here at the Labor Party. There's a new meetup group that just formed recently, the Wichita WordPress meetup. So if you're interested in WordPress, go check it out. They're still forming. So you have an opportunity to get in there and suggest a date and time for their next meetup. Ad Astra Academy has workshops coming up in July and then courses coming up in August. If you have any questions about those, you can ask me, I can let you know. All right, upcoming DevICT events. Every month when we do this presentation, the next day after we do developer lunch somewhere around here. Tomorrow we're going to meet at 11:30 at the Beautiful Day Cafe, which is at 2516 East Central. If you are interested in this, it's kind of a smaller location, so if you're just going to meet up and RSVP for it, that way we can let them know how many people are coming. We have Code and Coffee every Thursday morning. It starts at 7 a.m. Most people don't get here until like 8 or 9. It's just like a kind of informal come and hang out and work at the Labor Party for a couple hours. So come whenever, leave whenever. We do a monthly hangout event, which is light code and coffee, but it's at night. And we don't do that weekly. That's every second Tuesday. So the next one will be July 14th. And it's like 6 to 9-ish, just hanging out. We have the Game Jam coming up on July 31st to August 2nd, that weekend. It's going to be a weekend-long exercise in making video games. Try to get some teams together. If you have any questions, Jim can answer them. Next month, I'll be giving a presentation on getting started with Go, the programming language. That'll be the last Thursday, so July 23rd. And for tonight's talk, I want to introduce Chris Laughlin, who's Chris Late on Slack. He'll be talking about robots bringing your code to the real world. So let's go ahead and give Chris a hand.
Can I insert one event?
Yes.
Real quick?
Insert an event.
July 18th, Wichita is hosting its first maker fair here in town. It's going to be an exploration place. If you are a maker of any kind, whether it's technology or crafts or art or anything, if you make something, we want you at our maker fair. Go to makerfairwichita.com. There's an application you can fill out there, and we would love to have you feature your work.
Okay, I'm Chris. I'm going to talk to you about my exploration of robots. I'm going to use my phone for notes, so I'm not checking Reddit on the side while I talk here. I'm just trying to keep up with the notes. So I'll just show you walls of text on the screen while I talk to you. First of all, what's a robot? Anything that can physically interact with the analog world could be a kind of robot. I define a robot, though, as something that can gather information about the world around it through sensors and then make decisions about that based on that information and then act on it without further human interaction. That definition leaves it open to a door, though. But if you think about an automatic door as a robot, it gives you some creative, you can think about it creatively, because the door can do a lot more than just open when people walk up to it. If you just think about it more creatively. Anyway, robots are in your house, they vacuum. This is actually the basis of the larger robot I have there. The only thing that isn't really a robot is something that's purely remote controlled. However, you can't really have a computer control it until you can control it yourself electronically. So really remote control is the first step. Often you have with a telepresence type robot. So back to my presentation here. I'm going to focus on larger robots that are able to navigate their environment autonomously. And I'm just going to talk about the software I found to be able to do that with. My goals, it's a hobby. I'm not a college, I'm not doing a doctoral thesis or anything. It's not a business research project, it's a hobby. And really what I wanted to create was a mobile platform to code, build, and experiment on. So that's what I was going for. Some types of robots that are out there now. I just thought I'd show a few examples of what's out there. Back to my pictures here. This is a robot that's going to be in or has been put in some stores in California and Home Depot and Lowe's. You're supposed to be able to walk up to the robot and show it what you've got. It just takes a picture of it, uses image recognition, and then theoretically could actually show you how to, where the part is. So just, basic things all being put together to make a robot. This is a robot from some hospitals in England where they take this robot. It just drives around the halls. It navigates its environment, but it doesn't deviate from its path. It'll just stop if you get in its way. But what it does is it hauls these trays around full of foods. Instead of having nurses, college-trained nurses pushing carts around the hallway, they have these robots that can push them down the hallway. It saves a lot of effort. Lego has robots that move around the machines that make the Legos. The robots take the bins, the empty and full bins, and deliver them. Again, they navigate a fixed path, but they are autonomous, and they'll stop if you get in their way. Amazon, similar to the other two, they actually have these shelves. The shelves sit on top of the robot, so the shelves run around. If you look up Amazon robots, you'll see these interesting videos of all these shelves running all over this warehouse because the robots just drive around the warehouse. And So instead of going to the shelf, they can bring the shelf to the picker, or they can rearrange the shelves. And then this is something that was in the news a few months ago. It's a dishwashing robot. What's special about the robot is it's able to analyze an object that it's never encountered before and determine the best way to grasp the object and handle it, which is a big deal because if you got a pile of dishes, you don't want to have to program the robot to pick up every single dish. So those are the kind of things that are going on right now commercially with robots that are out there. So why build a robot? My notes here. A robot is like building a video game in reverse. So we build a simulated environment inside the computer based on the real world using sensor data and then attempt to navigate that environment. Our success is based both on how well we interact with the simulated environment and how well our simulated environment mirrors the real world. So, you know, things like glass, you know, what does the robot do with that? He sees right through it. So he simulated what he sees, but not what's really there, things like that. But a video game, you navigate a simulated environment. It's the same thing with the robot. He's navigating a simulated environment, really, but hopefully he's simulating the real environment around him. That's the challenges. There's how do you analyze the environment fully enough and simulate it fully. And building robots is introspective. As humans, we do the same thing. We interact with the real world all day long. Our behavior and decisions are actually based on the simulation that we build in our brains of the world around us. We don't really know what's going on around us inside our heads. We have to use our senses and make our best guess. Sometimes it doesn't work, right? That's why drunk driving is such a problem. Your simulation of the world around you is skewed. And then, you know, simple things. It's a little hard to see here. I tried to overlay some two pictures, but the blue box here is the picture of the room that was created by the robot at my house. So the blue line over here is the wall, but there's a mirror on that whole wall. So when the robot gets over there, he actually looks through the wall and creates this whole other room inside the wall. So it's just an idea of, you know, what does a robot do when he sees a mirror? You know, you and I have ways of dealing with this. Interestingly, though, we don't actually recognize patterns that well. We sort of generate them. That's why we're always making up faces in tree bark. We make up faces, you know, in anything we see. We actually generate patterns all the time. And then, but we have a really good filter system to look at something and go, you know, that's not another room, that's a mirror. But we still walk in windows once in a while, right? So it's just interesting for me, I think, to study how we see the world by trying to get the robot to see the same thing. So the first limitation of robotics is input, and I break that down into technology and cost. This right here is the laser scanner, LiDAR they call it, that sits on top of the Google self-driving car. So the self-driving car actually is more aware of its environment than you and I are. You and I am most of the time. We use our, you know, vague depth perception system that's kind of crude. And the brake lights, right? The brake lights come on, you stop. The Google car doesn't look at that. The Google car is analyzing everything around it. It says here, I can just read it on here, but the Google car knows the distance of the car in front of it down to the millimeter, and by proxy, the exact speed of that car at every microsecond. So the Google self-driving car knows exactly the speed of the car in front of it. When it slows down, it can slow down. Consequently, it drives much more smoothly than we do, you know, in a following situation because it's so aware of its environment. But that LiDAR is $75,000 if you want to pick it up. And even the more generic ones you pick up are about $5,000. So money is a lot of it. You know, someday this stuff will be cheap. You know, someday this will get, as technology comes down in price, we'll be seeing more of that. But, you know, one reason your car doesn't have one of these on it to help you drive is another 75 grand on the cost of your car is kind of steep. This is, so when I was looking for ways to build a robot, I found a place called Willow Garage. They made this robot called the PR2. I'm going to try to play this video here, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. This is just sort of an example of what someone did with the robot that Willow Garage came up with. And I'll talk about it here. In 2006, Scott Hansen, an early Google employee who helped develop Google's technology, started a research lab and a technology incubator devoted to developing hardware and open source software for personal robotic applications. The goal was to create the tools necessary for people to advance the field of robotics without continually reinventing the wheel by building new hardware platforms and writing code to re-implement the same functions on every new platform. So basically what Willow Garage said was, people keep building robots, but we already know how to do that, and they keep having to build new code for the same one. So they wanted to build a platform for research and development, which is what that PR2 is there in the video, and build a software system that you could just, the open source, you could stick on it and start working with, but also that could use other robots too. So that's just an example. You can see you can drive around. You can. This was a project that the university did. Has a huge number of features built right in there. So that's what Willow Garage started doing. This is the PR2. They call it the PR2. The thing with the PR2, PR2 can navigate an office environment with amazing agility. It can play pool. It costs $280,000, which not bad for university. You know, instead of having to build their own robot, they can buy this thing right off the shelf, load systems on it, and start, you know, teaching their students. PR2 has 2 quad-core i7 Xeon processors on board, 24 gigs of RAM, 2 terabytes of disk space, and at least 2 $5,000 laser scanners on it. So it's an expensive, complicated piece of equipment, and the software built for it was built for a serious computer. So the next question Willow Garage had was, would it be possible to do something where the average person could get in on this instead of having to, you know, go be a university student or come up with $250,000? And here I just talk about, you know, what it can do. So they came up with a Microsoft Kinect and a vacuum cleaner. And here's another little video just to kind of show what it can do. They call it the TurtleBot. That's an older version of it, but it literally is one of those Roomba vacuum cleaners with a Microsoft Kinect stuck on top of it, and you stick a laptop on it. And look at the price here. Right now you can buy it, including the laptop and the Kinect sensor, everything you see there. You can buy that for $2,000, which isn't cheap, but compared to $280,000, and it's running the same software. Obviously not as you know, efficient, but it's running the exact same software as the PR2. So that's what Willow Garage did. They made the PR2. They made this. You can run the same software on both devices, and you can also get cheaper if you just buy pieces and source your own parts, especially now that we have the maker place here. Kind of wondered, like, there's a lot of parts in there you can build yourself. So you buy just the vacuum part, and then you can start putting some pieces together because it's pretty open. So this is just a quick example of what a Microsoft Kinect sensor sees. Here's a picture of my living room, and then next to it, it's hard to see on here, but there's sort of the banding, the color banding shows you the depth. So a Kinect camera, it's a 3D camera. It actually uses infrared it paints the room with infrared, and then it looks at that and uses stereo vision. What they do is they just take that image and they just slice a line through it. They just pick out a line, and then they just feed that to the laser scanner input, the same input that the PR2 would be sending out of its laser scanner. They just send the data from this Kinect, just one 2D line. But it's really efficient. It's high resolution because of the camera's resolution. It's fixed, you know, to your direction. You have to move around, but it does the job for a small robot. So why use the PR2 software? It's called ROS, Robot Operating System. SLAM, simultaneous location and mapping. Because if your robot does not know where it is and how to get there, it's lost. Couple word definitions here. Odometry. Is the data from motion sensors to estimate change of position over time. So typically you get that off of your wheels. Your wheels will have some sort of encoder on them that basically says how far your wheels move. So your robot needs to be feeding ROS odometry, saying my wheel has moved, you know, 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters live. And the other word we've talked about is LiDAR. It's a term used a lot. A LiDAR is a detection system that works on the principle of radar, but uses light from a laser. So really they're sending out a laser beam and reading the response. But and I'll go through here. When I first started building, I was bringing in here, left it. I started building a Lego robot and got some distance sensors using ultrasonic. Got a camera on it. I could remote control it, and I wanted to be able to send it from one room to the other. And I started playing with that, and I figured out that it is really, really hard. That's when I started digging up, and everybody kept saying, "Oh, you want to do SLAM? You want to do simultaneous location and mapping, localization and mapping?" And I'm like, "What is that?" So that is the ability for your robot to build a map in real time and then locate himself within that map. And then later to locate himself at any other position in the map by navigating there. So path planning. Most of the SLAM information on the internet is papers from doctoral thesis from college students who have figured out how to do it. They sometimes will implement it in a simulation, not so often in the real world. I think a lot of commercial companies have done it, but it's not so common for open source. ROS has 2 SLAM implementations built right into it. It's available, they're open source, you can use either one of them. There's one called Hector that just uses the LiDAR data, and then there's one called G-mapping that uses that and the odometry, so it's a little more accurate because it uses the wheel input, but it combines the two to figure out, to deal with errors. Something I didn't write in here, but one issue with odometry is, in theory, you could put your robot here and tell it, well, the other room is 50 feet over there, and then make a right and go 30 feet. That will invariably not work long term. Every time you move, every time you turn, you start to build up errors. And eventually the errors overwhelm the system's ability to locate itself. And there's a lot of people out there trying to do it, but typically if you don't use some sort of input, visual input of the area, you lose your location, and you lose it quickly. Really quickly. So pretty much the laser scanner is the way to go. A couple other things that don't work besides trying to just do dead reckoning off your odometry, using a compass in a building. My Lego robot has a really nice compass, and if you bring a digital compass in a building, you'll find out there's a lot of interference. The magnetic field in a building is an amazing jungle. Everywhere you go, there's a new field, and north spins around you. It's crazy. It's kind of a very drunken way to try to get a robot to move around. It doesn't work. And the other thing that doesn't work is GPS for anything that's an area of less than the length of your house, really. I was able to locate my robot on one side of the house, the other sometimes. Part of it is being indoors, you lose a lot of resolution off your satellites. And part of it is it's just not built to be that accurate. So, you know where you're at, but even your GPS units in your phone and your car often are using some sort of acceleration data to kind of help them know when you're moving, or the direction. Use a compass. So like your phone has a barometer, and even to give it altitude to help with getting a GPS lock. So those don't really work. So back to simultaneous localization. And mapping. Here's a picture. A little hard to see up there on the screen, but you've got a map. This is an overlay of several different functions all being shown here. But the bottom line is the robot is able to be aware of all of the obstacles surrounding it and then make a decision based on those obstacles. So ROS, the primary goal of Robot Operating System is to support code reuse in robotics, research, and development. ROS is a distributed framework of processes, they're called nodes, that enable executables to be individually designed and loosely coupled at runtime. These processes can be grouped into packages and stacks, which can be easily shared and distributed. ROS also supports a federated system of code repositories that enable collaboration to be distributed as well. The design from the file system level to the community level enables independent decisions about development that can be brought together. So the bottom line is ROS is not a program, it's a pile of packages. When you install it, it puts like over 100 Debian packages on your Unix box. And you get to write your own. In fact, pretty much if you're doing anything, you're going to write your own ROS package, and they just talk to each other. It's very loosely coupled. It causes difficulty for them to keep it installing. That's why it does install just on Ubuntu, but it works really well, especially considering all the different pieces that are there. And like I said, there's a whole list of robots you can run it on. Pretty much anything out there right now, someone's trying to make ROS work on it, from commercial robots to just little home robots. So a node is what they call an individual process in ROS. So you'll have a node for your laser rangefinder, you'll have a node for your odometry, you'll have a node for just anything that you can think of that you would write a piece of code for, you make it a node. The benefit of the node structure is they can be distributed too. So you can run a node on one computer and another computer on the same network and run other nodes. So as soon as you start it up, you have a network distributed system. Right now, I can come over here, and the reason I can see the data from my robot on this computer is because it's broadcasting across the network any information that I want. Master is just whoever starts it first is the master. There's a parameter server. It gives you the ability to dump any data you want to into this server that will store it for you. So I can go into, it's kind of hard to see the little screens here. I'll stay away from that. But basically, if I want to save a parameter like ignore certain sensors, I can put that into the parameter server, and then it's available across the system. Messages. Messages are a way of communicating between the nodes. Every node, you can set up a structure. Basically, a message is just a data structure comprised of typed fields. That's it. So you make a file, you have the fields and their types, and then you can easily send the messages back and forth. And because they're predefined, you know exactly what to send, and without getting an error, you can look it up. Topics. This is the part you spend the most of the time on in ROS once you've got your node started. Messages are routed via transport system with publish subscribe semantics. So basically, any node who wants to can publish any data they want to, and anybody else who wants to subscribe to that topic can subscribe to it. So I will try to get on here and list all my topics, if I can spell the word list. Yeah, what do you just zoom on Ubuntu here? Do you know what the zoom is on a terminal?
Control, scroll up. Control Shift plus, probably do it.
That'd be great if I could zoom. Oh, there we go. Awesome. All right. Big stuff. Lots of topics. Echo topic. Here's my odometry. So this is the live odometry coming from the, did I do that to get that? From the base link, from the system itself. But basically every piece that runs has a topic. One of the things interesting for me to run is the serial port. This will just show me all the data coming in from my microcontroller to the ROS. So it doesn't look like much here, but every one of the letters there, those are my ping sensors. So that sees 106 centimeter, 105 centimeter, 103, actually it's probably, yeah. So you can just look at that data very easily, pull it into any other program, and of course all the pieces of ROS know how to digest that data and to look for it. So the topics is useful, and again, it's distributed over the network, so you can run the different pieces on the different computers. A service is like a topic, only instead of broadcasting data, it listens for you to tell it to do something. So if you have a node that you want to do something, like say you want it to talk, or you want to stop the robot, or you want it to tell it to go, or explore, or tell it to do something, you start a service, and then you can just send commands to the service from another node. And then it has this concept called bags. That's just a way you can record any data from any topic, and you can play it back. And people use that, so you can record all the data from all your topics, you can play it back into a simulation and recreate a scenario in the computer. So with that brief overview, talk about my robot here. So why didn't I buy a TurtleBot? They're under $2,000, got your own computer. I felt the TurtleBot's payload and ground clearance would just really limit what I could do. It would lose interest pretty quickly once you've delivered coffee. And they're actually using the TurtleBots to deliver coffee in restaurants in Japan. Just, I guess it's cool enough that people are drawn in by the idea that you can get your coffee delivered by a robot. So you can dig it up on YouTube, TurtleBot coffee, and the waitress, the lady at the counter puts the coffee in the robot and it drives to the table, and the guy picks it up. But it's pretty advanced. You think about it, though, the robot's got to get to the table by itself, and it does do it. And I want to play with it myself. So built the Arlo bot. The main issue was to keep it circular, like the TurtleBot, and to make a differential drive. That's how it works. You just have 2 drive wheels forward, back, like a tank, basically. And as long as I kept it that way, I actually just run the TurtleBot code on my robot. I don't have to modify it to do that. So what do you need to do to build your own robot? First, you need a platform. You need some hardware. Certainly, you can use one of the small Arduinos are common. The small like SumoBots you can buy, things like that. If you want on ROS though, you really need to have a computer. It's built to run on that PR2, which had dual server processors. Yeah, it had a couple servers basically in it. So, and you say, well, could you dumb that down? Maybe, but SLAM is computationally heavy, so it needs to do a lot of math. It's busy. Once you start it on my robot, the CPU spikes and it stays there until I shut it off. So you really need a lot of CPU power, and to do that on like a Raspberry Pi, it's just not enough power there. They do a little bit on Android, but again, I think they're dumbing it down. So a larger platform, you can put a computer on helps. I found this platform from Parallax called the Arlo Robotic Platform. That's why I call mine the Arlo Bot. It's just a ready-made set of parts that all go together to build a robot platform. They give you the pieces, the built pieces. They give you the motors that will strap onto there. They give you the motor controllers. They give you the casters for the front and back. Here's all the pieces here. There's even a power supply, not really a supply, but a distributor basically. And it's all pre-set up where you put 2 small 12-volt batteries in the bottom of it. And it's very, you got to put it together yourself, but compared to fabricating your own system, it's a lot easier. And to put all this together, you're going to spend over $1,000. So it's not cheaper than the TurtleBot, but you have a platform. I believe the payload, if you get the, and there's 2 options, you can get the steel or the plastic wheels. The steel wheels, the payload is about 60 pounds. And they tried that. They actually put steel plates on the robot and drove it around the parking lot. So it's got a serious payload. My robot one day decided to have fun, and he mistook the open basement door for a hallway and drove right down the basement stairs at our house. And it only broke one of the casters. I was shocked. It survived. Some of the sensors and stuff, but it survived that. So I'm here to say it's really durable. But don't let your Dalek go down the stairs. It doesn't.
Did you consider the possibility that maybe it didn't want to survive?
I did. There was definitely some concern for a while there, but it was still alive. I mean, even the laptop survived. So what can it wasn't. But so what are the other parts you need? You need a platform. You need a microcontroller. You need something to connect the motors and the sensors to the computer, because your computer is going to have serial input or USB input. You're not going to have all that option. So typically you use a microcontroller. Arduino is a good option, and there's actually a lot of, there's some ROS nodes out there specifically for talking to Arduino, and there's several people out there who've built robots for ROS by themselves using Arduino to control the motors and then aggregate the sensor data and give it to ROS. I'm using a Parallax, the same company, a propeller board. The reason I went with that is just because I bought their platform, so I used their controller, and it gave me, I felt good about having support from them. And it was, so I did have to write my own node to deal with that data. It's just C code. The main difference between the Arduino and the propeller board is the Arduino is interrupt-based. The propeller board has these 8 cores. They're really excited about that. Basically, it runs 8 simultaneous threads at the same time. Whether it's actually better or not, I don't know. It's just a different way you deal with it. Instead of having interrupts, you get to have 8 things running all the time, and then you have a common stack where you can put your variables and they can talk to each other. So again, you can probably interface all of the same components with an Arduino. Like I said, I was starting fresh, so I went with Parallax's own system. But that's what you'll need: a microcontroller. You need motors. Your motors are going to have to somehow mount to your platform. They need to have encoders, so it's not built into most motors that they know how fast they're spinning. You give them a amount of power, and hopefully they go a certain speed, but you should have an encoder on it. Typically, that takes the form of a disc, a perforated disc, and a light sensor that's looking through the perforations and just seeing how many ticks go by and counting those ticks. Again, the platform that I got, those are already there. They're not like built into the motors that they give them to you, and they hook right on. So that was all built in there for me. That's what went with that. But there are a lot of, again, you can go online. There's several companies that sell motors, and they sell encoders to go with them. You have to have it. That's where you get your odometry, and you really need that. And you have to mount sensors. While Ross uses the Microsoft Kinect sensor to do 3D mapping, there's a few issues with that. First of all, it's just a plane. Just imagine a 2D plane shooting out in the world. That's all it is. It doesn't go up or down. So that's all it sees. So it's very quickly going to run into things that are above or below that plane. The Kinect sensor also has an issue because of the stereo system. It's blind to anything closer than about 40 centimeters. So you need to have some other sensors just to avoid running into things. What works best is ultrasonic sensors. There's many different kinds. I use the Ping. You can look up Ping. It's kind of a brand. Again, they're sold by Parallax. Others sell them too. They give you a nice digital readout. Infrared sensors, those are good too. The issues I have is typically they give you an analog reading, so you have to kind of deal with an analog voltage and convert that to a distance. They're very susceptible to power line noise, so you've got to make sure that your electricity going to them is clean. Usually that means capacitors and such. They're also susceptible to lighting interference. I had an issue where my robot was acting strangely, and I sent the data output to a person at Parallax, and he wrote back and said, you have a fluorescent light in your room, turn that off. And sure enough, you could just see in the sensor data that it was creating what he called a beat frequency. So every so many lines, you would see this reading, and the thing is, it's different everywhere. It's different for this light, it's different for LED lights. So some places it's fine, some places it ends up halting your robot because it's getting these weird. So I often just turn off my infrared sensors. I have them, but I don't always use them. And they can be blinded by sunlight too. So the ultrasonic sensors are the easiest to deal with. Oh, and of course your mirrors and your glass. Infrared sensors don't help you there, but the ultrasonic does. So Ross will try to drive him right through a mirror. We'll try to drive him right through a glass window, but the ultrasonic sensors will stop it, and it won't go. So, and a unique computing platform. Again, I talked earlier, Android and Pi. If you're going to run Ross, it's just not enough. Typically, I think I found that laptop for under $300 on eBay. So you just have to be big enough. Wiring. Robots have a lot of wire. I have the least documentation on this. Basically, you'll need breadboards, resistors, capacitors, and I tell people look at SparkFun. They have good explanations. Seth Etter actually did a presentation a while back on hacking the real world with Node, and he talked about the Arduino, and honestly what he presented there is about as much as you need to know, because then you just have to make them give you the data and pipe that into Ross. Like for instance, the ping sensor, here's the website, there's the ping sensor. Here they show you exactly what the ping sensor does. They show you how it works. They show you how to wire it. They show you how to wire it onto this specific board, but there's others for other boards. And they show you the code, that stamp. There's also code in C. So it's really well spelled out how to do the wiring. And you just take that wiring and then, I lost my, yes, washing dishes, right. I don't know what the next, that's our map. So you just take that wiring and just kind of blow it up a little bit. So all you see here is the same wiring from that picture, only in mass. So here we have the same diodes, the same resistors that were on the picture there. Here we have the same wires going to the ping sensors, and just using the breadboard basically to take a whole bunch of those and then run all the wires together into one board. So it's really just a matter of scaling up what you've learned, and it's not that complicated. And then in theory, someday this could be soldered together or something, but the breadboards will do what you need for the most part. And I can show you more of the wiring later if you're interested. Back to the presentation here. So yes, wiring. Where's my key? Here we go. And Ubuntu. Ross runs on Ubuntu. That's the target that Ross is built for. A lot of people wonder why it doesn't work on other versions of Linux. it really just has to do with that large number of packages and the dependencies, the drivers. Even from version to version, there's a lot of struggling with, just like the driver for the Connect sensor is, it was owned by a couple different companies that sold to each other, went in and out of open source. It's difficult to keep that available. So typically they just say use Ubuntu. It just has to run on your robot, although you want to run it on your at least a workstation to run some of your viewing apps. But coding in ROS. ROS is written in Python and C++. Most of the stuff's written in C++, but anything you want to do, you can do in Python. They chose Python because it's easy to learn. Python was created to be easy to learn. Typically, if you can understand an if-then statement, you can start to learn Python. There's a lot of tutorials. You really don't have to ever mess with C++ if you don't want to. I have been able, without knowing C++, to get in and edit any code I needed to. But really, you can do everything in Python. Also, since it all runs on Linux, you can use anything you want. I actually am running my interface system for my robot on Node.js using JavaScript. And I just have it using command lines in the background to talk to ROS. So there's that. There is a JavaScript front end, a JavaScript interface for ROS. It doesn't work in Node right now, it works on web. So like this page here, it's hard to see. Again, there's probably some zooming option, right? Someone needs to tell me how to zoom Chrome. So focus it a little bit. So you can see here, it's telling me my speed, laptop battery, the right motor relay is on, right motor has power, left motor relay on. This is all data coming over from ROS via JavaScript to this web page. And you could run this web page and you could pull up this website on any computer in the room here and it would show all this information. So there is a JavaScript interface for ROS. It just doesn't work in Node right now, but they're working on it. It works in Node 10.34, but not Node 12 or 11. So they've got some dependency issues with a Canvas thing or something. My progress so far. My initial goal was to run the map creation and map navigation functions of the ROS Turtlebot package on a robot. That's done. I can make maps. Currently, I'm mostly working on making a GUI for it, for startup, exploration, map loading, map saving, and then what I'm working on right now is creating tags in the map or waypoints. So I can drive the robot to a point and then tag that spot and then tag several spots with names and then next time load it up and have it tell it to go to those locations in the map. Because you can see here, once you have a map, I can just give it a goal and it will attempt to navigate to that location. And you could also save those locations because they're just numbers off the map. As long as you reload the same map, you can do that. So eventually I'll have my house mapped and I want to have a GUI like this, or something similar where I can actually go and drop down and say, go to the kitchen, go to the living room, and then interface that with more things like text messaging. There's Twilio. So right now when he starts up, he sends me text messages. I want to be able to respond and say, go to the kitchen. And then eventually the alarm system can tell him front door alarm and the robot can go to the front door, right? And start greeting people with nonsense. Yeah, some of my goal here is artistic. I really enjoy just having fun and playing. So when I first started in building him, I just gave him some random phrases to just say periodically, and he would just sit in my living room and he would just say these random phrases, and it was amazingly, people would be creeped out because they're like, how did he know what I was talking about? I'm like, no, it's just random. No, really, it's just randomly repeating phrases that I stuck into it. But things like that, because as soon as something talks to you or starts driving around, you input your own emotions to it. You look at it. When I had this demonstrator here before, he was driving around and kept running into chairs. I said, well, how do you get him to stop running into chairs? Simple. You get some people around. The people were moving the chairs out of the way of the robot. It's like, there you go. That's socializing. The robot has already gotten into human society. He just drives around like an idiot and people move the chairs around. But yeah, but to me that's fun because that is an interaction between the robots and the real world. We think the robot has to be perfect, but really he just has to figure out how to interact in our world, not just physically, but actually socially. What can he do to get himself into your attention? So I've got a lot of demonstration things through this that I've demonstrated most of this This is kind of the cool, amazing thing. So a few minutes ago, when we first started, I had him drive around and make this map, and he just made this map. We will turn off some. So that's the map, which you see right there. That map will be saved to a file if I want to, and can be called back later. So if it's the same place when I come back to, obviously this map, this room is bound, this pretend room is bound by people up here. But so you can reload that. It really is just a graphics file, so you can edit it, but you don't really need to. Then when it loads the map, it can show you what this global map, this is computationally what the robot has decided, okay, those are the areas I can drive in. So it's exploded the walls and the areas and saying, you know, look, be careful, don't get too close to those. And then on top of that, we have the local map, which is actually its obstacles. So as it gets close to something, and everything's close here, but you can see this, the square box there is his local map of obstacles. The local map will change constantly. The global map stays the same, but the local map is actually going to demonstrate the obstacle. So if we come over here and stand in front of it, if you can see there, I've actually entered into his local map. So he actually shows me as an obstacle in front of him. And if I move away, those local map things go away. And that's what allows him to get around obstacles. So if you ask him to go to a location and something gets in his way, he'll continue to remap around him. So you just give it a goal, and I think he'll show, I think he's going to do that anyway. Find the path. We'll show you his path on here too. Back over here. Okay, and there's the green line. That's a pretty simple path, but anyway, we could stick something in front of it. I don't have anything handy here in the trash can. Yeah. Okay. So we're just gonna stick the trash can here. There you go. It's firmly planted in his local maps there. So now if we give him a goal, hopefully he won't try to drive right through. The way the goal works is you put the location, and the arrow is just which way he should face when he's done. So I'll have it face back this way. And there's now the path shows going around the obstacle because it's there. And he'll repath, that's what Ross gives you, is that ability to localize himself. And he'll deal with that. If you move around in front of him, he'll keep working his way to get around you. Eventually he'll give up, I think. Sometimes it's annoying, he won't. Okay, just stop it, never mind. My next goals, like I said before, I wanted to have presets in the house. I wanted to continuously operate, adding other inputs like alarm systems, random actions based on pre-programmed behaviors. I'd like to have a way he can follow me. There's a few options with that. Right now, one of the things built into ROS is color tracking, so you can get like a colored ball and he'll follow it. There are some people tracking options, but he tends to get confused in complicated environments. I find that he likes the corners of walls a lot better than me. So he'll follow me around the house until there's a corner, and then he's just happy with that. But the color tracking works really well. I found if you want to crack something that is matte, not too shiny, because if it's shiny, you lose the color. And pink works great. Yellow is actually a really common color, believe it or not, in the world, but pink is not so common. So I've stolen my daughter's pink hat a few times, and so I don't know what to use. I'd rather use something less obvious than carrying a pink tennis ball around with me, but if that may be how I start. But I'd like to have a way to follow me. So when I came in here, someone says, why isn't he driving on his own? I'm like, well, because he has no way of following me. And then just generic human interaction based on sensor input. There also is face tracking. It's obviously an option in Linux and computers, period. So that's something to play with, face detection, face tracking. Eventually, maybe give him arms. I'd also like to research 2D surface mapping. So like rooms, it's really exciting, but you think about it, it's actually easy because you have all these walls, but like a car is driving on a road and there's just the road. It's looking at the road and knowing that's the road. That's something I haven't researched much, but I'd like to find out if there's anything built into, into ROS or something, and find for like driving down a sidewalk. How could it stay on the sidewalk based on the difference in what the sidewalk looks like? And if you want to do something with ROS, I really recommend this book, the Getting Started with ROS. This guy, if you look at his site, it's called Pi Robot. He built a robot some years ago, And he updates this book every time Ross updates, which they have a pretty frequent update cycle. And it's pretty impressive because he's doing a lot of things with Ross that can be hard to do and can even be hard to do with the latest version. He makes it all work. Everything in his book works. He does it on his bot. You can do most of it also in a simulation. He explains that too. There's really good tutorials online for Ross. He guides you those at the beginning, but once you've done those, you'll want more, and this book really helps. You can get it online as a PDF for like $15. It's not that expensive, but it's a great book. I highly recommend it. And everything you've seen here, all of the code running on the robot is on my GitHub repo. It gets updated almost every day. I have a blog where I journal what I've done and try to document most of it. And of course, Robot Operating System, you can go to their website and see what they're up to. And that's all. We could do questions. Does anybody have any questions? And I'll be around afterwards too. We can check it out. Yes.
So I noticed that you referred to him as he.
Yes, his name is Two Flower, and I'm not sure why he's he. I think just because it seemed more. I hated to call him she. Just because I didn't know why it should be she either. It's really neuter, but it just doesn't sound right in there. It's just a thing. But yes.
What type of hardware do you need for the processor on the laptop that you're running?
On the laptop, I'm going to go look at my blog.
Will it perform better if he has an i7 or?
The more the better. I mean, really, the more the better. It really helps because Ross, like you said, the PR2 has the server. What you find is you can turn down the resolution that it's using for the scanning. So you turn it down and turn it down and turn it down. And eventually you lose, it doesn't work as well, but you can turn it down a lot. Once you get going with it, you want to do more stuff, you know. One thing I'll tell you for sure, this RViz program that's visualizing, that's running on this computer, and all that data is going over the network. Sometimes this shuts down my Wi-Fi, switch data. If I run this program on the robot itself, it crashes. It can't do both on this laptop. So if I had a more powerful laptop, you could even run the mapping software on the computer itself. So
Can you transfer over Bluetooth versus Wi-Fi?
well, I think the main thing is just be careful how much stuff you run. Like every time I turn off one of these checkboxes, there's less data going over the network. And just, you know, don't run Netflix at the same time. Or get your own Wi-Fi network for your robot. I don't know. Or maybe I just have a bad network. It's working fine here. Nobody's complaining, you know.
Is the mapping software requesting the data, or is it just?
Yeah, it subscribes to it, and then it is actually broadcast sent to it. So and it seems to work fine here. So maybe I have a home Wi-Fi issue, but there's definitely less of it. I was going to say on my blog here, I do mention this processor level by lots of stuff. So I can find the laptop here. Okay, so this laptop I'm using is an i5 2520 2.5 megahertz CPU. The TurtleBot comes with an Atom N525 dual core processor, 1.8 gigahertz. I consider that's like the bottom. Don't go below that, but that's an Atom, so you can run on Atom. The other thing with laptops is noticing that they're not necessarily getting faster nowadays. They're doing other things. So sometimes you can get an older one with just as much, you know, gigahertz. And also realize that there's the turbo level. Like this one, I think has like a 2.5. Maybe that's a turbo boost. But they never run that when they're not plugged in. They always throttle their CPU when you unplug them. That's all laptops do that. So you're not really going to get all of that power. But yeah.
So you're running 2 12-volt batteries in the machine?
That's what runs the motors, the sensors, the propeller, the microcontroller. The laptop's running off its own battery. Right. If you plug the laptop into the 12-volt battery, it dies pretty quick. I don't think you can charge it. That's actually my limit on runtime. I've never run the 12-volt batteries out before, but the laptop dies in an hour or two. But they're old batteries too, so I could update those.
What does the mapping in actual, you know, whether it runs into something? Is it that laptop?
No, it's on board. I'm just visualizing it here. Right. Correct. This is just getting information and the ability to give it a navigation goal graphically. But certainly I could send it a navigation goal through another system, makes up a website or anything. But the robot is 100% autonomous. It doesn't need the other computer. You could, though, theoretically run. The only reason you can't run the mapping over here and the sensor over there is that sending the sensor data over the network, there's some lag, and the mapping system is not built to deal with that. It assumes it's real time when the sensor data comes in. So if it's lagging, it's not gonna work. Jim.
On the robot, does Ross make extra use of video card processing capabilities?
No, it's just the CPU.
So no added benefit to getting something with a dedicated card.
No, I don't think it uses the video at all. I know the RViz can use your video card. It's just OpenGL though, is all it is. Like, if you run RViz inside a virtualization, you'll have to go to a software emulated 3D, but even then it works. So, it's probably someone could write it, but yeah, it's all the stuff is written for. Did you have a question?
I think you got an answer. I was kind of just thinking the same thing. Why aren't you just sending all the data to a big old workhorse sitting in the corner?
Right. I don't. You could read up on it, but I think you got to have at least some of it happening on the computer. Every year they get cheaper. Like I said, that's a 2.5 gigahertz dual core. To look, I think it has threading though. I did find the threads helped. It helps a lot if you can borrow a laptop. That's actually how I kind of decided what to do. Is I got my work laptop and put another hard drive in it and tested it, and I'm like, okay, that's what I need. And then this is a few years ago, and I looked at I just went on eBay and found a laptop that had the same CPU as my work laptop. That worked because I tried my wife's laptop and I tried an old laptop that we had sitting in the closet, and neither of those could handle it. They worked. It wasn't fun. It was annoying. They were just, you could tell. You'll see the mapping just tend to slow down. Eventually it'll drop internally. It'll start dropping data, and you'll see the mapping just isn't happening. But that was like with a dual core 1.2 gigahertz. It just wasn't enough.
Well, you expressed why you chose the platform you did and the flexibility you wanted and where you wanted to go with it. Along the way, did you either find some or have recommended to you anything like a lower barrier of entry? Maybe you really just want to play with sensors or consume a lot, or anything in between those two where I could.
Well, I mean, that's the beginning. Yeah. What I found was that if I wanted to run ROS with the mapping, I needed a PC. I mean, that's what there is. You needed a sensor. So I knew that's what I wanted to do, and that's kind of why I got there. I have a picture somewhere, but so this little guy, I mean, he's in the car, but that little guy, that's a Sumo bot. If you've seen him, that's the one Parallax sells. I had a Connect sensor strapped to the top of that, and then I had a USB cable coming off the Connect sensor, and also a USB cable coming off of that for my serial data, about 5 feet to my laptop. And I drove around the house and I did ROS with just that for a couple months. That was my proof of concept, because I didn't want to buy all this equipment if I couldn't actually do it. So I originally wrote the code to work just with the little robot. So he's only about this big, and he would fall over with the Connect sensor sometimes because it's too big and heavy. And I just followed it around with my laptop with the USB cable. So I mean, you can get into it and try it, and you can certainly spin up ROS, on your computer. And you can buy the book and do everything in simulation too. So maybe that's enough. You're done.
How much was this project together?
The little Sumo bot? Yeah. So the little Sumo bots, I think it's about 150. I have to look online. What is Parallax? So I should just look it up. But activity bot. It's called an activity bot. Get an activity bot, activity robot kit. And that comes with everything. So $200 for the activity bot, and then the Connect, Microsoft Connect sensors. We find them on eBay. The Connect sensor gets its 12 volt power through its USB connection. So if you have an old Xbox, Jim has an old one, I don't know, you have a power supply for it, right?
Oh.
There's like a power supply for the Connect.
We did, yeah, right. The new hardware revision of the 360, you just use that plug. And then, yeah, if you have one of the original Xbox 360s, you have to have a
Adapter.
power adapter.
So anyway, you get a Kinect sensor, you can get them on eBay, and you have to buy a splitter plug. And that's the thing I didn't mention too. I follow around the robot, but the Kinect sensor had to be plugged into the wall to get my 12 volts. If you can figure out 12 volt, you could. So I had an extension cord too, because this is using an Asus XTion sensor, XTION sensor. They're like about $200 though, but they just plug into USB. They don't need the extra power. But the Kinect sensors you can get on eBay, or you can find your own, and then you need a $7 power adapter off of Amazon.com to make them work.
How much is the Kinect?
I'd say spend about 30, 35, I think, on eBay. If you look on Amazon, they just vary. There's a Microsoft Windows version for like $100. Don't buy that. There's no point. I don't know why they do that. I think it's a licensing thing. But anyway, I think you can get a Kinect for like 35 bucks. Yeah, I just used the Kinect off of my kid's Xbox, and then I bought the $7 power adapter off Amazon.com and did that. I did eventually get the Asus. That I don't know if I could have just used a Kinect because there's 12 volts on board.
So just a point and then a question. If you're interested in a low-cost, small footprint robotics platform, we actually at Make ICT, we have a custom kit that was designed by Yvonne over here and Tom McGuire, who's our makerspace director. It's basically the same thing, the same hardware. It's Arduino instead of Parallax, and total cost of the kit, including 2 days worth of workshops to build and program it, is like $80. Wow. Yeah. So Make ICT.
There you go. So start there, because you're gonna have to know what you learned there to do this. I mean, you gotta understand the little bot, the sensors.
Yeah, and it's all of the hardware plus 2 days worth of learning. So, question though. So looking at your bot, there are ultrasonic sensors all around that thing.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if you have surpassed the threshold for the law of diminishing returns to follow those.
Oh, totally. It's an experiment in action at all times. It's always an experiment. I'm always figuring out what works next. So the sensors around the bottom were sort of what was originally envisioned by Parallax when they built this platform, and there's little spots for all of them. You notice in front, they're all dual. There's an IR sensor and a ping sensor, and the IR sensors, in my opinion, are mostly pointless because they're there's so many points of interference that they just aren't that useful. So the pings are just go with the pings. 2, why do you need 5 in front? I don't know. What's that?
What is the range on this?
What is the range? I don't remember. I have to look them up. But the ping sensors are pretty far. It's like 2 across the room. Yeah. Yeah. The way I've set this robot up is it has the microcontroller, which is this activity board, is reading the ping sensors. If the robot gets too close to something, the microcontroller stops it. Even if Ross tells it to go anyway, it stops it. So it kind of has this, I call it like a cerebellum, kind of like, I compare it to like if your hand touches a hot item, your hand will actually react to that heat and pull away before your brain knows about it. And that's how the robot is. It will not run into something even if Ross tells it to. That's helpful for programming. So I can do stupid things on the computer, but the microcontroller is stopping it. So the ping sensors are doing 2 different things. They're telling the robot what to do in the microcontroller. It also slows down. It has a maximum speed limit, and the speed limit decreases as the ping sensors get closer to something. And Ross is just limited to that. One benefit of Ross is it's a feedback system. So Ross says, okay, I want you to go forward at so many meters per second. But then the microcontroller tells Ross, okay, I'm going forward, but I'm only going at this speed. Or even tells it, I'm going in a circle. And Ross will be like, okay, he's going in a circle. And it will just report that back and then deal with that information. So it makes it easy to do things like that. So I set the speed limit in the microcontroller and Ross just deals with it. So definitely there's more than I need. Right now I'm experimenting with up and down sensors because he has a bad habit of running under tables, or not really under them, he crashes into them. So that's why I've got 3 up there vertically stacked, and I'm experimenting with how to make that work. So
follow-up question to that. How difficult would it be to add something like a simple bump sensor to Ross?
There are bump sensors on the TurtleBot, so you could use the code that's built in there. I don't really know how it works. I haven't designed. I'm mechanically inept in that way. I'm not mechanically inept in like putting things together that are there, but if it's designing something, I haven't come up with a bumper.
All you need is 2 pieces a wire.
That's what everybody says, but they break. They break, you know, the thing is once you bump it, then it's dead, so.
Does the turtle block have the cliff sensors also?
It does, it does. Since I drove mine down the stairs, I have installed cliff sensors. I haven't really tested them though. The problem is you've got to know about that cliff pretty fast. Like one nice thing is like you test it and it's like it comes with a cliff. Oh, I'm gonna stop and roll down the stairs. So the vacuum cleaner is so small and low and slow that, you know, that works. It actually has a wheel in front of the vacuum cleaner has a wheel in front. And when it drops down, it shuts off and goes back. So I was using infrared sensors, kind of putting it at an angle. What I actually did was I hooked up a alarm system on my basement door. So when you open the basement door, it writes a file to the robot shuts off. So the door itself, when I started up, there's a big pink button that said, "Is the basement door shut?" And I have to click that button before the robot will even go.
Do you run all of the things?
No. Well, tables have been a problem. At home it works good, but then you get somewhere else and find out all their tables are different heights.
Do you have like pets?
Pardon?
Do you have pets?
No, I don't know what pets would do. I think cats would be hopefully run away from it. And I don't have a dog. I have kids. The main thing is that
Jump on top.
yes. Well, you've seen the cat riding the Roomba, right? Yeah. So that actually would be cool. I haven't tried that yet. Anyone wants to volunteer a cat? We'll duct tape him to the top of it and make a video. All right. We'll duct tape all three at the top. We'll make a video.
How long have you been working on this?
It's close. I was trying to think about that the other day. It's a year ago in July or late June when I got the parts to build it. It was a year ago, January, when I was building the prototype. So it's about a year and a half now. Before that, I had a Lego robot that kind of led me towards doing it this way.
So you don't know of any open source laser scanner projects that are cheaper than 5,000? So yeah, and what I do, we use laser scanners a lot, and they're about $2,500.
Okay.
They're not open source, but
2,500 is cheaper too. Yeah. Okay. There's a little. The bottom line, like the Hoku laser scanner, is about 1,000, I think, for the bottom end one, which would work great. There is a vacuum cleaner out there called the Nito that uses this sort of spinning, rotating laser scanner. I have one in there. So there's another company that's like repackaged that, and it's about, I want to say, $200 or $300 or $400. But my experience is it didn't work. It won't make a map with that scanner. So I think they're using what they call Hector mapping, where they don't use the odometry. But I just had bad luck. It does drive around with that, so it's useful. So I'm using it for my navigation, and I'm hoping I can offload. If I offload the navigation to that sensor, then the Connect can be used for face recognition, people, things like that. So, but there's a lot of, everybody wants a cheap laser scanner, but maybe if you buy lots of them, then they'll come down in price. You know? Yeah, tear apart.
I saw, yeah, 6 months or so ago, a lighter, low-cost lighter on Kickstarter.
Okay.
Obviously, it's Kickstarter, so we never get it. But and I was trying to find it, and I just found it for $99. So it actually seemed from the reviews that they knew what they were doing. I just, until I see one actually deliver and videos, I'll trust it. But if it comes out for $99,
this is the sort of, it seems like a copy. I don't know. It's like so identical to the vacuum cleaner scanner that people rip out. It's like $400. But somebody out there has started, you can buy this vacuum for like $250 and rip the scanner out of it. But somebody started selling them for like $65. So I bought one of those. I don't know where I guess he's getting them off eBay or somehow getting them out of the trash, and he interfaces them. But my experience is this won't make a map properly. That's my experience. They show them doing it on the website. I think they're using, they're fiddling with it. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a great deal, but I don't think it's worth $400. Just doesn't seem like it's quite up to that level.
Are you aware of anybody that's using just video for mapping? Things like stereo vision or motion parallax?
No. I could look it up. It didn't seem, no.
Everybody's using sensors.
Yeah, or I mean, technically the Connect is video. I mean, it's 3D. Yeah, it's using the depth. It's depth sensing. So yeah, it's using depth. Yeah, the depth information is important. I guess you could get, if you could get a video and get, I mean, the depth image off of the, let's see if we can just get the laser scan here. It's kind of fun here, so you can just start pulling things off. So there's your laser scan. It's pretty, put the robot model back on there so you can see it. It's pretty high resolution, really. You know, when you take a photograph, you realize that you just don't have that much. I mean, you can see what you're looking at now is people's knees and stuff, but you know, it's got a, I mean, there's the can, there's the trash can. You know, you can see those dots there. It's all made up of dots there. Those are a lot of dots in that trash can. It's pretty high resolution. So I think that's part of the issue, and that's what they want with the laser scanners. That's the Kinect turned out to have a high resolution, even though it's limited. Let's go in a circle. Although some of the laser scanners are too.
So does ROS take all that information from all the sensors and spits out its best guess as to whether to move around it's a pathway or?
Yeah, it only makes the map with the laser scanner, but you can add anything else you want to the planner. So that's the ultrasonics are off. So
Can you use more laser scanner? Have one near the ground, one near the top of the robot.
I know you can for planning. I'm not sure about making the map. I know you can for planning. I mean, technically that's all it uses right now is laser scanners. So I actually have in the node, in one of the nodes, it takes the data from the ultrasonic sensors and turns into a fake laser scan. And that's how it gets, so I actually have that. Because one of the issues is, say it runs into glass, you know, stops. If ROS doesn't know why it stopped, it doesn't know what to do about it. So you need to send that ping data back to ROS and say, there is an obstacle here, even though you don't see it on your laser scanner, there's something here, so go around it. So that's when I ended up integrating the ping sensor data into ROS. Because before that, I was just letting it stop, but then ROS doesn't know what to do. So, and I actually have, it's not on here, I have the other laser scanner too, the one on the vacuum cleaner. But it just makes a map with the one and uses both for planning.
The last one for me. How difficult was it to program the 3 laws?
I think that the 3 laws are bound up in the power switch on the back, and you just turn them off. Yeah, that was. Well, let's wrap it up, and then you guys can ask me questions afterwards too. But,
Thank you.
probably.